Hi everyone, this is Mr. Zhang, and today we're going to go over the math homework for Class P. This is for session U17. For question number 1, if 4j minus k is equal to 11 and k is equal to 3j, then j is equal to... So here, you know that k is equal to 3j, so you can substitute this 3j into the variable k, and that will give you 4j. Instead of k, you'll have 4j minus 3j. That's equal to 11. Now for j minus 3j, you just subtract the coefficients here. So 4 minus 3 is equal to 1, so that's just equal to j must be 11. And that's choice E. Next, for number 2, if a gallon of lemonade requires 3 pints of lemon juice, then how many pints of lemon juice would be needed to make z gallons of lemonade? So here you have your proportional rate. And that 1 gallon of lemonade will give you will require 3 pints of lemon juice. So here, if you want to make z gallons of lemonade, you know that 1 times z is equal to z. So on the other side, you also have to multiply by z to make sure everything is proportional. So that would mean that you need 3 times z pints of lemon juice. And that's choice D. Next to number 3, Carol subscribed to 4 publications that cost $12.90, $16, $18, and $21.90 respectively. If she made an initial down payment of 1/2 of the total amount and paid the rest in 4 equal payments, then how much was each of the 4 payments? So here you figure out how much it costs in total. You add $12.90 to 16. Make sure you line up the decimal points. Here you have 8 plus 2, which is 10, and then 6 1 1 1 is 8. That's 18. The total cost is $68.80. Now she makes half of the payment. And of, remember, means multiply. So you'll take 68.80 and you divide it by 2. So that's $34.40. And that was paid. Now the rest is also going to be the other $34.40. That's 4 equal payments. So you'll have to take $34.40 and divide it by 4. So 4 goes into 34 8 times. And 8 times 4 is 32. Actually, from there, you know the answer has to be A, because that's the only one with 8 in the ones place. Anyway, if you subtract, you get 24, which is 6. And you have to put the 0 again. So the answer is choice A. Next, for number 4, if for x is not equal to -1, you want to solve x minus 2 divided by x plus 1 plus x plus 3 divided by x plus 1. So here, notice that when you're adding 2 fractions, the denominators must be the same. That's because they are. So the LCD is equal to x plus 1. So all you have to do, add the numerators. So if you add x minus 2 plus x plus 3, you'll put all of that over x plus 1, the LCD. Here, you just have to combine like terms. X combines with x, turns to 2x. And then -2 combines with +3. So -2 plus 3 is equal to +1. So the final answer is 2x plus 1 divided by x plus 1, choice D. Now you can't cancel out x plus 1, okay? It doesn't work like that. You can't factor out x plus 1 from the numerator, so you can't simplify this at all. Next, for number 5 in the keypad, shown above, each digit from 2 to 9 can be represented by any of 3 certain letters. If each digit in the number is replaced by a letter, a word is formed. Which of the following words cannot be formed from the 4 digits 7283? So if you punch in code 7283, if you look at the 7 could be PRS. The second number is 2, which can only be ABC. The third letter is 8, which can only be TUV. And finally, the last letter is 3, or number is 3, so it can only be DEF. So just go through all the choices and see which one can't work. So for choice A, rate, that's RATE, so that's fine here using this. So that's wrong. Again, you're looking for one that can't be it. For choice B, the word is pave, so you see PAVE here. So that is also valid. For choice C, it's scud. So you try to match the word scud, and the word scud can be made right here, SCUD. So you eliminate that. For choice D, the word is raid. Now you have R and A. You don't have I at the 8, so you can't have raid. This I is a problem. And then for E, it's a pate, and that's here. So the answer has to be choice D. Next, for number 6, how many integers between 100 and 999 inclusive have a unit digit of 7? So when you're making digits, specifically 3-digit numbers, this is essentially a permutation or a counting principle question. Because you're essentially choosing digits for the ones place, the tens place, and the hundreds place. So you must have a unit digit of 7. So the ones place must be a 7, which means you only have one choice for the ones place. Now for the hundreds and the tens, you know that it can go, for the hundreds, it can go from 1 to 9. You can't have 0 in here. So there are 9 options for the hundreds place, or 9 branches. And then for the tens place, you have 0 to 9, so it's 10 digits. So when you multiply everything through, it's 9 times 10 times 1, or 90, choice D. Essentially, this tree diagram has 90 branches. Next, for number 7, on map, half an inch represents 15 miles. If the distance between Dover and Portland is 50 miles, what's the distance in inches between the 2 cities on the map? So you know that half an inch represents 15 miles, and you want to go from Dover to Portland. The actual distance is 50 miles. So that's going to be X inches through. So here, you can set up a proportion and cross multiply. So when you cross multiply, you have 1/2 of 50 is equal to 15 times X. And half of 50 is 25. So you know 25 is equal to 15X. And you can divide by 15 on both sides to get that X is 25 over 15. Or 5 over 3. And this turns to 1 2/3. Which is choice B. Next, for number 8, you know that 0.4 times 0.6 times 0.8 is 0.192. In the multiplication problem above, if each of the 3 decimals on the left is divided by R, the new product is 24. What's the value of R? So if you divide each of the decimals by r, so you just divide it by r, the new product is now 24. So on the right side, you also have to divide by r cubed, because you divide by r 3 times. And you're given that this is equal to 24. So this is your equation. If you multiply, so again, your equation is 0.192 divided by r cubed. That has to be equal to 24. Now from here, if you multiply by r cubed on both sides, and then you divided, you got 0.192 is equal to 24 r cubed. And if you divide by 24, uh, 192 you can divide by 12 first. So 0.192 is equal to, it's 12 times 16 with the 3 decimal points. So you can write this as 0.016 times 12 and divided by 2 times 12. The 12s will cancel out. And 0.018 divided by 2 is equal to 0.008. And that's equal to r cubed. Now you can rewrite 0.008 as 8 over 1,000. And this turns out to be a perfect cube, because 8 over 1,000 is 2 cubed over 10 cubed, or 2/10 cubed. So if that's equal to r cubed, you know that r has to be equal to 2/10, or 0.2, which is choice D. 0.008. Okay, and here's the summary for this page. Next one, number 9, a certain system of numbers uses dots and lines to represent 2-digit numbers. The lines represent the 10 digits and the dots represent the unit digit. So I have 2 examples there. What's the value of the following expression? So here, this is the 10s, which is 5, and this is the 1s, and you see 9 dots, so that's 59, minus, this is the 10s, which is 4, and you have 6. So 59 minus 46 is equal to 13, which written in this form will be 36 and then 3 dots. Or, sorry, excuse me. This is only 13. So it'll be 1 6 and then 3 dots. So it should be choice A. All right, next here for number 10. Marilee's costs for producing lemonades are shown in the table above. If C represents the cost in dollars of producing N pitchers of lemonade, then which of the following equations best represents the relationship between C and N? So if you look at the numbers here to find a pattern, you see that each of these, the total cost just adds 2. So because you have this constant rate of change, you know that it's a linear equation. So put in other words, y equals mx plus b. You multiply and you add for this function. It's a straight line. Now you can find the slope here, which again, if you see that they're all being, you keep adding 2, while the top, you just keep adding 1. You know that there has to be some doubling here. So if you take all the numbers and you double it, and then that's 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Then you add 1. This is the pattern, times 2, then plus 1. That's choice A. C is equal to 2 times n, which is a times 2, and then you add 1. Next, for number 11, if r is not equal to negative s, what is the value of r minus s times r minus s minus r plus s divided by r plus s? Okay, so here we can simplify what's in this parentheses. If you have r minus s minus r plus s, you can combine like terms. Specifically, the r and the minus r combines, and r minus r is 0, so they cancel out. Next up, the minus s and the plus s, they also combine. They also equal to 0, so they cancel out. So what you have left over? Just a 0. So you have r minus s times 0 divided by r plus s. So here, since there's a 0 in the numerator, this just equals to 0. Choice A. One of the factors in the numerator totally canceled out, so it's just equal to something times 0, which is always equal to 0. Next, for number 12, at a certain hour, a lamppost, which stands 108 inches tall, casts a shadow that's 27 inches long. Sue is F inches tall. In terms of F, how many inches long is her shadow at the same hour? So if you see this classic shadow problem, this is a proportion. So you have this lamppost, and it's casting a shadow. Now, if you have a person, and you're also casting a shadow, it's essentially the same triangle that is formed. So this triangle here and this triangle here, they are similar. So when you have similar triangles in this classic shadow problem, remember that the corresponding angles are the same, but the sides are proportional. So similar triangles have the same shape, but just a different size. So specifically, the sides are proportional. So here, when you have a lamppost that's 108 inches tall, that corresponds to a shadow, which is 27. Now, when you have Sue, which is F inches tall, her shadow, we don't know how long it is, so we can call that X. X is a variable of interest. That's what we want to solve. So you would solve this using a proportion and just cross multiply because it is proportional. So you know that 108 times X is equal to 27 times F. Now X is the variable of interest, so that means you have to isolate X. So you want to divide by 108. So 27 and 108 has a common factor of 4. So that's just F over 4, which is equal to X. Choice C. So you see shadow questions. This is this means that you have similar triangles, and we have similar triangles. You have to set up a proportion cross multiply and then solve for the variable. Okay, for number 13, you have this these two triangles in the figure above. CD and AE are both perpendicular to AC, and BD is perpendicular to BE. If X is equal to Y and the length of BD is equal to 4, and the length of BE is equal to 6, what's the length of AC? So you know that X is also equal to Y. Now, since you know that AC and AE are perpendicular, perpendicular means 90 degrees. So they make this upside down T shape or this L shape. So we can label that here. And that means that triangle BAE, this is an isosceles right triangle, which means it's a 45, 45, 90 right triangle. So the sides are in a ratio of x, and x root 2. Now for CD and for triangle BCD on top, You know that BD is 4, and then BE is 6, and you want to figure out the length of AC. So from here, you can actually use this isosceles right triangle here to solve for the missing lengths. So specifically for triangle BAE, you know that 6 corresponds to the x root 2 side. So if x root 2 is equal to 6, if you divide by root 2 on both sides, you get that x is equal to 6 over root 2. Now you can simplify this by multiplying the top and bottom by root 2 over root 2. In order to rationalize the denominator, that will give you 6 root 2 in the numerator, and root 2 times root 2 in the denominator just equal to 2. So 6 and 2 cancels to form 3 and 1. So this is equal to 3 root 2. So that's the length of AB. Now you have to do the same thing for the triangle BCD. And since you know this is a 45, 45, 90 right triangle, and you know that BD is perpendicular to BE, this is a right angle, that means that angle CBD is also 45 degrees, which means that angle D is also 45 degrees. So both of these are 45, 45, 90 right triangles. So for the top triangle, x root 2 corresponds to 4. So to solve for x, you divide by root 2 on both sides, and x is equal to 4 over root 2, which, just like before, if you multiply by root 2 over root 2 to rationalize the denominator, that will give you 4 root 2 divided by 2, or 2 root 2. So each of these will be 2 root 2. And to get the total, you'll have to add 2 root 2 plus 3 root 2. And these are like terms, so you add the 2 and the 3, which becomes 5 root 2. Choice A. So the key here is to figure out that you have a bunch of isosceles, or 2 sets of isosceles right triangles with sides ratio of xx and x root 2. Next, for number 14, the square root of the product of 4 and a number is 6. What's a number? So the square root means square root and you have a product. So you're multiplying 4 times the number n. That's equal to 6. So this is your equation. To solve, you have to square both sides, get rid of the square root, which will give you 4 times n is equal to 6 squared, or 36. Then you can divide by 4 and figure out that n is equal to 9. And that's choice C. Okay, and here is a summary for this page. Next, for number 15, in the subtraction problem above, of a 3-digit number from a 4-digit number, ABC represents 3 different digits. What digit does C represent? So here you just have to guess and check. So if you look at a ones place, you have 7 minus b is equal to 7. So here b has to be equal to 0. So then you have 0 and a 0 here. So you can't do 0 minus 4. So the 0 you'll have to borrow, turn to 10, and this 4 will become a 3. Now 10 minus 4 is equal to 6, so A has to be equal to 6. All right, now for the next digit, you can't do 3 minus 6. So this 3 you borrow to 13, 6 becomes a 5, and 13 minus 6 is equal to 7, choice D. So the correctly solved problem is 6, 4, 0, 7, minus 6, 4, 0. So 5, 7, 6, 7. Next, for number 16, which of the following equations represents this information? Mr. Johnson distributed 85 beakers among the Z students in the science class, and each student received 5 beakers. So when you distribute equally, that means to divide. Now, we know that 85 is a total, and if you divide it among Z people, you get 5 beakers per person. So that's going to be, well, you don't see that here. You'll have to rearrange it. Choice A is not quite right. Here, if you multiply both sides by Z, using just inverse operations, you get that 85 is equal to 5Z, and that's choice E. Next for number 17, the minute hand of a clock has a length of L from its point of rotation to the point at the end of the arrow. What's the total distance traveled by the point at the end of the arrow in M minutes? So here you have a minute hand with a length of L. So when you have this clock, this minute hand has a length of L, and that represents the radius. And now this clock will rotate around a circle. And when you have this rotating around a circle with a radius of L, one thing to keep in mind is that it goes 360 degrees in 60 minutes. So you can find the unit rate if you divide by 60 in 1 minute. You'll go around just 6 degrees. So if you want M minutes, you have to multiply by M. That would be 6M degrees in M minutes. And to figure out the distance traveled, 6M, this is the part. And the whole is, of course, 360 degrees. So this will give you the part of the whole circle that you travel through. So this fraction represents the part of the circumference. So I have to multiply this by 2 pi r, which is the circumference. So this circumference multiplied by this fraction will give you how far along the circumference the minute hand travels in M minutes. So you know that the radius is equal to L. So you have 2 pi L times 6M over 360. And you just start cross-canceling stuff. So 6 and 360, you have 1 and 60. And then 60 on this 2, you have 1 and 30. So the answer is pi L and M over 30. And that's choice B. So here you just use part over whole to figure out, well, first you need the unit rate. And then you use the unit rate for the minute hand. 1 minute goes 6 degrees to figure out the part over whole, which is in 6M. In M minutes, it will go 6M degrees out of 360 degrees. And this is the fraction of the total, which is the circumference. Next, for number 18, you have this triangle. Again, figure not drawn to scale. In the figure above, if MO is equal to OP, so this is an isosceles triangle, and MP is equal to NP, then A is equal to. So because this is an isosceles triangle, we know that 2 sides are equal. So if 2 sides are equal, we can actually redraw this triangle. It looks a little more like this. And then here, MP and NP are also equal, so this also makes another isosceles triangle where these two sides are equal. So it looks a little more like this. So A is here and 70 is here. Now because MO is equal to OP, so these two sides are equal, their opposite angles are also equal as well. So angle M is equal to 70 degrees, and so is this angle here, which is A plus this. We don't know what this is, so we can call that X. Now, the other piece of info that we can use, because the bottom part is isosceles, the bottom triangle is also isosceles here, the opposite sides are also equal. So this angle is also equal to 70 degrees. So now we have all the information to figure out this vertex angle here for the triangle on the bottom. Because the base angles are equal to 70, that's equal to 140 total. The triangle adds up to 180. So if you subtract 140, you figure out that the vertex angle has to be 40 degrees. So X has to be 40 degrees because 70, 70, and 40 makes 180. So if X is equal to 40 degrees, your equation becomes 70 is equal to A plus 40. And from here, if you subtract 40 on both sides, you get that 30 is equal to A, which is choice A. Next for number 19, if a right circular cylinder has a volume of 144 pi and a height of 9, what's the area of the base? Well, the volume of a cylinder is just based on its height. Now, the base specifically is a circle. So it has a radius of r and a height of h. So the volume is really pi r squared, which is the volume of the base, times the height. Now, we know that height is equal to 9. We just want the area of the base. So we want pi r squared. So we know that the volume of the cylinder is 144 pi is equal to the base, which is just b, times the height, which is 9. So all you have to do is divide by 9 on both sides, and you get the area of the base. And when you do 144 divided by 9, you get 16, and so you have that pi left. So the answer is choice C. Now we can actually use this information, set this equal to pi r squared, which is the formula for the area of the circle for the base. And if you divide by pi, you get that r squared is equal to 16. Do the square root, the radius is equal to 4. Next for number 20, in a set of 5 distinct numbers ordered from smallest to largest above, m is the median, which is just the middle number. Now, which of the following must be false? So here, they are from smallest to biggest. So C and D are larger, and then A and B are smaller. So I go through all the choices and see which one can't be true. So choice A says B times M is greater than A times M. Well, from this inequality, you can divide both sides by M, which is just a number, and that means that B is greater than A. And here, B is greater than A because B is to the right of A. So A is wrong because it's always true. Now for choice B, I have B minus A versus D minus C. Now this could be true because B minus A is the difference between two smaller numbers. You can make this, for example, 1, 2. So B and A will be 2 minus 1, which is equal to 1. And then the next number, C and D, you can make them really far apart. Let's say 4 and 10. So D minus C will be 10 minus 4, which is 6. So actually, let's suppose it's the opposite. So this would make D minus C greater, but you can also make B minus A greater, where if you have 1 and then 10, 11, 12, 13. So A minus B will be 10 minus 1, which is 9. And then D minus C will be 13 minus 12, which is 1. So 9 is greater than 1. So B could be true. Again, we're looking for one that must be false. So we found a case that made B true. It's a set here. So the answer B doesn't have to be false. So it's wrong. For choice C, you have M minus B is greater than C minus M. So you want M minus B to be greater than C minus M. Again, they're surrounding the middle number. So again, this could be true. Just find a set of 5 numbers where the difference between M and B is really big. So for example, you can have 1, 2, and then 10. So the M minus B is really big because 10 minus 2 is 8. And then C minus M could just be 11 and 12. And 11 minus 10, C minus M is just equal to 1. And 8 is a lot bigger than 1, so C is wrong because it could be true. For choice D, you have A plus D versus B plus C, and you want A plus D to be greater. Well, again, this could be true if you make the variable D really large. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 10. A plus D is 10 plus 1, which is 11. Whereas B plus C is just 4 plus 2, which is 6. And 11 is much greater than 6. So D could also be true. So the answer has to be choice E. There is no way that A plus B can be greater than C plus D. That's because A plus D are definitely smaller than M, and C plus D is larger. Both C and D are larger than M. So when you have a set of numbers here, if you try 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1 plus 2 is 3, 4 plus 5 is 9. So 9 is always going to be greater than 3. So E is the answer because it can never be true. So for number 20, because it says must, all you have to do is find one set to make one of the choices false, and then you can just use process of elimination. Next for number 21, if 5x plus 8 is equal to 18, what's the value of 10x? So here, first thing you got to do is subtract 8 on both sides. So you have 5x is equal to 10. Now, you don't need to solve for x because you want to solve for 10x. So just double each side. And you get 10x is equal to 20. And here's a summary for this page. Next, you have this char apples harvested in 2001. In 2001, Fernwood Grove harvested approximately how many more apples than Maple Orchards? So in this pictogram, see the difference is 1.5 apples. And if you look at the key, each apple is 30,000. So you have to do 30,000 times 1.5. So you could just do 3 times 1.5, which is 4.5, and then move the decimal 4 times. So that will give you choice D, 45,000. Next for number 24, which of the following values of C satisfies the equation the square root of 2C over 5 minus 2 root 2 is equal to 0. So we have these annoying square roots, and you want to get rid of them by squaring, because square roots and squares over a power of 2, they're inverse operations. So here you have to isolate the radical sign and then square both sides. So just a variation of, isolating the variable. You got to isolate the square root first. So if you add 2 root 2 to both sides, you get the square root of 2c over 5 is equal to 2 times root 2. And now because this square root is isolated, you can then square both sides. And that will get rid of the square root. You'll get 2c over 5. So no more square roots on the left. Now it gets tricky on the right because you have to distribute this power of 2 using this law of exponent. A times b raised to the c power is a to the c times b to the c. So it's kind of like the distributive property. This will be 2 squared times root 2 squared. And by doing so, you also get rid of the square root on the right side. So 2 squared is 4, and you're multiplying by the square root of 2 squared, which is 2, which is equal to 8. So here's your new equation that doesn't have any square roots. 2c over 5 is equal to 8. From here, you can multiply by 5 on both sides, just as you would normally. You get that 2c is equal to 40, and then you could just divide by 2. You get that c is equal to 20. And that's choice D. And you can also check your work by substituting in. 2 for c here will be the square root of 2c over 5, or square root of 2 times 20 over 5, which is the square root of 40 over 5, which is the square root of 8. Now, square root of 8, you split into the square root of 4 times 2, and you cut this into 2 pieces, and that's equal to 2 root 2, because 4 is a perfect square. So 2 root 2 minus 2 root 2 is equal to 0. So for this question, you have to sort of do a variation of the isolating variable, isolate the square root first, and then square both sides. And you had to use this law of exponents to help you out. Next for 25, if a to the 10th power divided by a to the f power is equal to a squared, and a to the 6th raised to the 8th power is a to the 18, what is the value of g minus f? Okay, so here you have to use the laws of exponents. Specifically for the first one, you have b to the a divided by b to the c is equal to b to the a minus c. You divide two exponents with the same base. You need to subtract their exponents. So from here, you have to do 10 minus f. So a to the 10 divided by a to the f is equal to 10 minus f, and that's equal to a squared. So from here, the exponents therefore must be equal, because the bases are the same. So 10 minus f is equal to 2. F has to be equal to 8. Now for the second part, you have to use this law of exponent, b to the a raised to the c power is b to the a times c. So you're multiplying the exponents when you do power to a power. And this is actually a g, not a 8. So here, you have to multiply 6 times g. So a to the 6th power raised to the g power is equal to a to the 6th times g, and that's equal to a to the 18. So from here, you know that the exponents, 6 times g, must be equal to 18. Here, if you divide by 6, you get that g is equal to 3. Now for the last step, you got to do g minus f. So that's 3 minus 8, which is equal to negative 5. And that's choice A. So just quick summary, make sure you memorize these two laws of exponents and apply them. Okay, next for number 6, you have this line. Which of the following could be the equation of line PR in the figure above? So when you have this equation, you have to notice a couple things. So first up, it has a positive slope, because it's going up this, you're climbing up this mountain. If it's a negative slope, just a non-example here, this would be going down. So it's not going down, it's going up. Now the other thing is that it has a positive y-intercept. So we can eliminate choice E, because choice E doesn't have a positive y-intercept. Its y-intercept is 0. So that means that I would have to pass through the origin, which can't be true. Now, all the other choices actually have positive slopes and positive y-intercepts, so you really can't do this question. You actually need more info, because we don't have any other points, so you can't actually do this question. All these choices will look kind of similar. The slopes will vary, but if you don't have any of the other information, for example, you can't just draw this to scale. You really can't do this question. The answer key says A, but it could be any of the following, A to D, because they all have a positive slope and a positive y-intercept. Next, for number 27 in the figure above, what's the area of the shaded region? Okay, well, here it looks like, really weird shape, but this piece on the right is really just the same as this piece on the left, because it's a semicircle with a radius of r. It might be tough to see, but It's the same exact shape. So if you cut this piece out and you just paste it over here, it just turns out that shape is a rectangle. And the area of rectangle is just length times width. So base is equal to B. You have to do R plus R or 2R. So the area is just going to be 2RB, or choice B, 2BR. So here, because the shaded piece, you could just cut out and replace, it becomes just a very easy rectangle. Next for number 28. Set F contains 5 consecutive even integers. Set G contains all the numbers that result from adding 5 to each of the elements in set F, and also all the numbers that result from subtracting 5 from each of the elements. Set G has how many more elements than set F? All right, so one easy way to do this is just to pick 5 consecutive even integers. Consecutive means one after the other, so no skipping. So you'll just pick 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. And then for set G, you have to add 5 and subtract 5. So 2 becomes 7 and negative 3. 4 becomes the 9, so you'll just do 7, then 9, 11, 13, and 15. And then the negatives, you also just add 2 to have negative 1, 1, 3, and 5. So now you have 10 numbers instead of 5. So you have 5 more numbers, choice C. Set F has 5 numbers. Set G has 10 numbers. So that's just 5 more, which is choice C. Next for question number 29, if x raised to the a plus 2 divided by 3 power is equal to 4, then x raised to the a plus 2 divided by 2 is equal to. So here you have to turn this exponent into from a plus 2 divided by 3 into a plus 2 divided by 2. So what you can do is to first raise both sides to the third power. You're taking advantage of this law that states that b to the a raised to the c power is equal to b to the a times c. So you multiply the exponents when you do power to a power. So when you raise both sides to third power, you're going to be multiplying the exponent. So that will be x raised to the a plus 2 divided by 3 times 3 is equal to 4 cubed. And 4 cubed is 64. It's just 4 times 4 times 4. Now a plus 2 divided by 3 times 3, that will cancel that out. And you just have x raised to the a plus 2 is equal to 64. Now you want to have a plus 2 divided by 2, which means you'll have to raise something to the 1/2 power. And when you raise something to the 1/2 power, that's equal to the square root. So the exponent can also be a fraction. And when you have a fraction, the numerator is the power. And the denominator, which is that 2 and that 1/2, is a root. So this is b raised to the a to the c root. Or you can also do the other order, the c root first and then the a power. Either way, when you raise both sides now to the 1/2 power, again, you'll be multiplying the exponents. So this would be x raised to the a plus 2 times 1/2. Or when you multiply by 1/2, you're really just dividing by 2, which is exactly what you want. And that's equal to the square root of 64, which is equal to 8. So the answer is going to be choice B. So the laws of exponents that you have to use, power to a power, multiply the exponent. If you have a power of 1/2, that's equal to the square root. Specifically, that's this rule. If you have a fractional exponent, the numerator is a power, the denominator is a root. Next for number 30, on March 17th, A town had an average snow base of X inches. Then the weather warmed and the snow began to melt. At the end of each day, 1/5 of the snow base left from the previous day had melted. 4 days later, on March 21st, what was the remaining snow base in inches? So you start out with X inches, that's day 1. So this is the 17th. Then you have the 18th, 19th, 20th, and 21st. So you have to go 4 days of melting. Now, at the end of each day, 1/5 melted. So if 1/5 had melted, that means that the remaining 4/5 was left. So in each of these cases, you're going to be multiplying by 4/5. So what this turns into is you have to take 4 over 5 raised to the 4th power. And you multiply by x. And that will tell you how much was remaining. And I have to use the law of exponent that says a divided by b raised to the c power is a to the c over b to the c. If you have a fraction inside of parentheses being raised to a power, the exponent applies to everything inside the parentheses. So what this comes out to is 4/5 raised to the 4th is equal to 4 to the 4th divided by 5 to the 4th. And 4 to the 4th power is 256. 5 to the 4th is 625, just 125 times 5. So this is your fraction, and you're going to multiply it by x. So the answer will be choice C. The other way to do this question is to pretend that x is equal to, let's say, 1 foot, and then you just keep multiplying by 4/5, and eventually you'll get 256 divided by 625. So here's a summary for this page. Next, for number 31, if x divided by y is equal to 1, then 2x minus 2y is equal to. So here you can multiply both sides by y, and when you do that, you get that x is equal to y. So once you know that x is equal to y, you can just do a substitution. You can replace y with x, so this would turn to 2x minus 2x, which is always equal to 0. Next, for number 32, if all of the angles in a figure above are right angles, what's the length of AAB? So you want this mystery side here. Now, because they're all right angles, that means they're all 90 degrees. So they're all L-shaped, which means you can make just a really big grid to connect all the points together. So when you make this big rectangle, you can just start subtracting to figure out the missing pieces. For example, if this piece is equal to 3 and this piece is equal to 2, that means that this leftover piece would have to be equal to 1. You can split this up into a 1 by 3. And now since this piece is equal to 1, this piece is also equal to 1. Then the other piece of info you can use is if this piece is equal to 2, then this piece also has to be equal to 2. So we have the top part, we have the bottom, which is also equal to 2. Now we just have to find the side. And for the side, you can look at this 3. If this piece is equal to 3, then this piece also has to be equal to 3. So you know the total has to be 6. So if the total distance for the left side is equal to 6, and you already have this 2 and this 3, that leaves another 3 for AB, because 1 plus 3 plus 2 has to be equal to 6. So AB will be equal to 3. Next, for number 33, if point P lies on TR such that TP is equal to 2 and PR is equal to 1, what's the probability that a randomly selected point on TR will lie on TP? So here you want to draw your diagram. So P lies on TR such that T to P is equal to 2, while P to R is just equal to 1. So the total is equal to 3. That's 3 parts for the total. And now you want a probability. If something's selected, a random probability just means fraction, so it's going to be part over whole. The part is going to be on T to P. So this is the part that you want. Divided by the total, which is going to be TR. So the distance from T to P is equal to 2. That's the part. For T to R, it's 2 plus 1, or 3. So the percentage or the ratio is 2/3, or you can say fraction is 2/3. You can also bubble this as a decimal as well. Next, for number 34, the cube above has a number on each side of its 6 faces. If the sum of the numbers on each pair of opposite sides is 10, what's the sum of the numbers on the faces that are not shown? So you have 3 pairs, 2, 4, and 8. Now the 3 that are not shown, they have to have a sum of 10. So on the other side, just 10 minus 2, which is 8. This would be 10 minus 4, which is 6. This would be 10 minus 8, which is equal to 2. So to take those 3 and add it up, 2 plus 6 plus 8 is equal to 16. Next, for number 35, the weight of the tea in the box of 100 identical tea bags is 8 ounces. What's the weight in ounces of the tea in one bag? So you have 100 bags, that's equal to 8 ounces. Well, you want the weight for just one bag. So to figure out one bag, you divide the 100 by 100 to get the unit rate, and do that to the other side as well. So you have to divide by 100, and you get 8 over 100 ounces, or this is 0.08. So the answer will be 0.08, or you can simplify this as a fraction. If you divide by 2, that will be 4 over 50, and if you divide 2 again, that's 2 over 25. Next, for number 36, what's the product of all of the positive integer factors of 10? So just as the factors of 10, remember factor times factor is equal to product. So the number 10 has factors of 1 and 10, and then 2 and 5, and that's it. So you just multiply 1 times 2 times 5 times 10. That's just equal to 10 times 10, or 100. Next, for number 37, if A varies inversely as B when A is equal to 3, when B is equal to 4. What's the value of B when A is equal to 48? So varies inversely means opposite. So if A increases, B will decrease, and vice versa. If A decreases, B would increase. So here, it's not a direct relationship. You can't use a proportion here. So when A is equal to 3, inverse just means opposite when B is equal to 4. So if A is equal to 48, you know that 3 times 16 is equal to 48. That means that for B, you don't multiply by 16, because that would be a direct relationship. You would have to do the opposite, or divide by 16. So B would be 4 over 16, or 1/4. As A increases, B would decrease, because 4 divided by 16 becomes just 1/4. So when you vary inversely, you have to be careful. A is equal to 1 over B times some constant K. So B is in the denominator here. This is an inverse relationship. So be careful, this is the opposite of directly related, or just a proportion. You can't use a proportion here. So just be careful, just remember to do the opposite. Next one, number 38. In rectangle ABCD, if x is equal to 40 degrees, then y plus z is equal to. So here for this rectangle, you know that the corners are equal to 90 degrees because all sides are right angles in a rectangle. Now you want y plus z. So to get the value of y, you can just subtract and split this up using smaller triangles, which is, if you take a look at the triangles there, you can, or rather you can use this quadrilateral. So for this quadrilateral, you must have 360 degrees as a total. Now I don't know what this angle is, I can call it A, and this angle I don't know what it is, I can call it B. Just a right angle here. Now the two things you can do is that A plus Y has to be a straight line, so that's 180 degrees. And so is B plus Z. So once you have that, if you add everything up, you have A plus B plus Y plus Z is equal to 180 plus 180, or 360. Now the other piece of info you can use is that 40 plus A plus 90 plus B is our quadrilateral. So 40 plus A plus B plus 90 is equal to 360 degrees. So from here, 40 and 90 is 130. So 130 plus A plus B is equal to 360. If you subtract 130 from both sides, you get that A plus B has to be 230 degrees. Now from here, you can take this 230 and replace A plus B with it. So instead of A plus B, you have 230 plus Y plus Z is equal to 360. After you do this key substitution step. Now just one more step. If you subtract 230 from both sides, you get that Y plus Z is equal to 130. And that's the final answer, which is what you actually wanted. You can actually solve for Y or Z individually, but you know that the total has to be 130 degrees. So here you can use a quadrilateral, you can use other triangles, just start calling some of these angles, variables like A and B, and then you can eliminate them or substitute for them to solve for Y plus Z. Next, for number 39, at a clothing store, the piece of a cashmere sweater is 3 times the price of a cotton sweater. If the store sold 25 cashmere sweaters for a total of $1,500, and the combined sales of cashmere and cotton totaled $1,800, then how many cotton sweaters were sold? So assuming each of the prices of the cashmere sweaters are the same, if 25 sweaters was $1,500, so call C the price of cashmere. If you multiply 25 times C, that'll be equal to 1,500. So you can divide by 25 to get the cost of the cashmere would be equal to $60. Now, the $60 is 3 times the price of a cotton sweater. So the cotton sweater, which we can call X, is equal to $20 because 20 times 3 is equal to 60. So if you know that the cotton sweater is $20, then you can do some subtracting. You know that the total was $1,800 and $1,500 was the cashmere. That means that the rest must be cotton, and 1,800 minus 1,500 is equal to 300. So 300 plus 1,500 is 1,800. So you know that the cotton, the money that you get from the cotton selling the cotton shirts or sweaters is $300. And now this $300, since you know that each cotton is $20, and we can call Q the quantity of cotton sweaters that were sold. If you divide by 20 on both sides, get the Q is equal to 300 divided by 20, or 30 divided by 2, with 15. You sold 15 cotton sweaters for $300. So the answer is 15. So here you just turn the word sentence to a number sentence, and then you just substitute to solve. Next, for number 40, if n is not equal to 0 and 125 times n to the x is equal to n to the x plus 3, then 125 times n is equal to, so you know that 125 n to the x is equal to n to the x plus 3. So here, n to the x plus 3, you can actually split up into two pieces because you can use this rule. B to the a, so b to the c is b to the a plus c. If you multiply two exponents on the same base, you have to add the exponent. So we have the sum of the exponents here. So this would split into n to the x times n cubed. Because you would normally add x plus 3 to get x plus 3 up there. So, of course, n to the x is equal to n to the x. That means that 125 has to be n cubed. So 125 is equal to n cubed. If you do the cube root on both sides, it turns out that n is equal to 5. 5 cubed is equal to 125. So once you know that n is equal to 5, you can substitute in. You can do 125 times 5, which is equal to 625. And for this question, you have to use this law of exponent. If you multiply two exponents to the same base, you have to add the exponents. Okay, and here is the summary for this page. Thank you everyone for joining me today. Enjoy the rest of your day, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. All right, bye everyone.